And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, just 1 week ago, voters headed to the polls, and then 1 week later, we still don't know who has won a handful of races, including 3, that will eventually determine the balance of power in the state Senate. Now, here to add some insight into what we can expect for the week to come, our insiders. They are the veterans of Albany politics who have seen their fair share of elections. Joining us tonight from New York City is Bruce Jory. He's the former senior advisor to 2 governors, and he is now a strategic consultant at Corning Place Consulting and also an adjunct professor at the University of Albany. And then back here in Albany with us is Dave Catalfamo. He is former communications director to ex-Governor George Pataki and now a partner at Capital Public Strategies. Gentlemen, of course, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Hello, Liz.
Thank you.
Well, as we mentioned, I'd like to start with the Senate balance of power, and I guess we will start with you, Dave, because you are a Republican. The Republicans say that they will be victorious. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they at least have a 32-30 majority when it's all done, but possibly with all the affidavit ballots and absentee ballots out, they still have a chance in the Oppenheimer-Cohen race, although that's definitely a much further stretch than the other 2.
You know, these are not the races that we expected,
no.
Actually. And I guess I'd like to turn to you then, Bruce, and say, what happened here? Because it seems to me that the Democrats might have not done what they had to do.
Well, I don't know that I'd see it that way. I think first off, I don't concede that the Republicans have the majority won. There's 3 recounts going on. Let's see. I'm not going to dispute that, but let's just see till they count the ballots. And there's a strong indication that the Johnson race is going to have to be done by a hand ballot. But to summarize where it is, first off, the likely voter methodology of the pollsters proved very inaccurate in New York. They significantly underestimated the women's vote and the minority vote, and as a consequence, here's what happened. Political demographics trumped the Tea Party in New York, top to bottom, including the state Senate races, but where taxes were involved, it trumped everything else. So when you look at it, Padovan lost because the political demographics was shifting away from, it had become a minority district, Asian and Hispanic. It held in Adabo for the same reason. Political demographics defeated Quinn because it's a Democratic district. On the other side of the equation, where taxes were involved, the payroll tax on the MTA, it sunk Foley. It may have sunk or at least made a dead heat out of the Johnson race and put Susie Oppenheimer in trouble. But the tax issue also bit the Republicans because when Scott Vanderhoff, who swept to a landslide in his re-election as county exec, put through a 13% property tax increase, that defeated him when he ran the very next year. So, I think this is open for a reason. It could still be 32-30 for the Democrats. It could just as easily be 31-31. And then the interesting factor is Andrew Cuomo, through the vote of Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy, will hold Trump.
Okay, hold on there. That's an interesting question. Dave, the Republicans say that actually Lieutenant Governor-elect Bob Duffy does not have the power to make a tie-breaking leadership vote.
Right.
Have you guys ever looked at this in the Pataki years? I mean, I don't know that you even thought of a deadlocked Senate back then.
No, we never really had the numbers that were close enough to have to really consider that too much. We've looked at it since because obviously it's gotten closer, and there's obviously a couple different schools of thought. But, ultimately, I really don't think it's going to make a difference. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be 32-30 Republican lead in the Senate. And we're going to get on with governing hopefully here soon. Okay,
let me ask you this though. Obviously, I can see, gentlemen, where you are here, and so I'm not going to ask you to reiterate the party line. However, I just want to say this: in the Avella-Padovan race, which I think that you just referenced, Bruce, the numbers turned out that the recanvass of the vote, of the machine vote, it turned out that the margin is actually 2,000 votes higher for Tony Avella than originally thought. In the 1st Congressional District out on Long Island, you saw also a quote-unquote glitch that flipped that race for the Republican. And now, of course, that's not yet conceded in that race, and there's a recount. Dave, why is it that voters should have confidence in these voting machines?
You know, a lot of the voting machine problems are really not related to technology and really more related to the training that was given to the inspectors who are out, around and closing up these machines. Oftentimes, they did not have the proper training to turn them off and get the report out right. So I don't think that we're seeing a massive problem with the machines themselves. I think we're seeing kind of the problems that emerge when a new technology is being deployed. You have a lot of people who are getting used to it who possibly didn't use them during the primaries. Again, more from the reporting out end and less on the actual machines themselves. The votes are there, is what I believe. And then ultimately, as they kind of sort out some of these snafus with respect to getting the reports downloaded, they'll straighten themselves out. But I don't think they're a machine problem per se. I think it's a people problem.
Bruce, do you agree with that?
I agree with that, but that's the very reason why I'm reluctant to concede that, for instance, Craig Johnson has lost in Nassau County, and why Newsday's call for a total recount by hand is in order, because these glitches and human error glitches in using the new equipment, we don't have a track record of that. You're going to get these discrepancies. Thank God we have a paper trail backup, but I'd be surprised if a court did not, given this lack of any background in using these machines in a general election.
Well, there's a lot of background around the country with these kind of machines. I mean, the reality is that
not in New York.
Not in New York, but the votes are there. The votes. I mean, when I say glitch, I don't mean a glitch with the machine. I mean a glitch as in somebody who didn't know how to download a report or didn't accurately and things like that. That's not going to change the vote count,
okay,
which
Dave,
doesn't require a hand
margin
count.
For Craig Johnson of under 500 votes, and there's multi-thousands of paper ballots, and you've had in neighboring Suffolk in the congressional race discrepancies in what was on the machine versus what was done on the recount, and you have that in the Maffei race in Syracuse, and districts perhaps not being reported the first time. I just think we ought to pause and say, let's let the legal process go forward on the recount before we jump.
Wait, okay, hold on, guys.
It's a democratic boogeyman.
Democratic boogeyman.
It is. These machines, they work.
All right, can we move on to a different topic?
I didn't say the machines were. I didn't say the machines were in error. I agreed with you that there was human error. We will have to see. We'll know the Republicans will get nervous when they bring Sweeney out of retirement to have a protest in the southernmost district in the state.
Okay, a Florida reference from Bruce Jory. All right, listen, let's move on to something that I actually want to get to, and that is the relationship between Shelley Silver, the Assembly Speaker, and Andrew Cuomo, the governor-elect. Does Andrew Cuomo want to get rid of Shelley Silver, or is this all just smoke and mirrors and a shot across the bow? Silence. No one wants to touch that question.
No, I'll touch it.
Okay,
I see
Bruce,
no
go
indication. I look at what the governor-elect has said. He told the New York Times, I respect the separation of powers. I'm not going to say who the speaker should be. I'm not going to enter in there. He said the same thing at the breakfast in Puerto Rico, I believe it was yesterday, and implicitly praised the speaker for agreeing with his position on taxes. I think that after when the incoming Pataki administration worked with Senator D'Amato to knock out Ralph Marino, I think there's a certain expectation that every new governor will try to knock out a leader of their party, and I just don't see it happening. I think the buzz was classic political buzz without a lot there.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's not going to happen. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't want it to happen. I think that every governor wants to have a strong colleague in one of the houses that they can work with to implement their agenda. It's yet to be seen whether or not, the speaker is up for the governor-elect agenda, and of course we have to figure out what the governor-elect's agenda is. But perhaps he finds a partner in Senator Skelos in the Senate Republican majority. That's very possible. And actually, and not without precedent, Governor Cuomo, the first Governor Cuomo, actually, oftentimes had a partnership with Governor Marino or Senate Majority Leader Marino. So, the precedent's there, and it could certainly happen that way.
Well, we should also say that I heard from Senator Skelos' a source on Senator Skelos' side that I believe that the senator spoke again. This is the second time now this morning with the governor-elect. And also we should note that Ralph Marino didn't back George Pataki for governor. That's
right.
part of the reason why that ousting took place. You know, what I also found interesting is that Andrew Cuomo's kept a fairly low profile since his election last week. And Bruce, I remember when Eliot Spitzer was elected, you know, 2 days later he was announcing his transition team. What do you make of this sort of behind the scenes, not talking very much? I mean, today there was a highly orchestrated press conference with the two governors, incoming and outgoing, but so far no announcement on transition, nothing.
There's no right way or wrong way to do a transition. There's no magic formula. It's what works for the incoming chief executive and his team. The other thing is, historically, incoming governors and incoming presidents have tended to wait until to announce major policy initiatives until they're actually sworn in. So if Governor-elect Cuomo is taking a week or so to announce his transition, I don't think it's either untoward or reflecting a lack of planning. My sense is they're doing the planning, they're measuring twice and they'll cut once. If it lingers, it could betoken a problem, but I don't read very much into it, other than that they're proceeding in a measured way.
Last word to you, Dave.
Well, I mean, I think it's very much consistent with how he ran his race and how he ran the Attorney General's office, which was very disciplined and very controlling with respect to information. I think that, you know, that has worked for them, and I think it's been successful, and they've avoided many of the pitfalls of the Spitzer transition. And I think ultimately it's going to be up to how he manages his relationship with you and the rest of the media with respect to how forthcoming he is and how that gets played out in the near future.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me, Bruce Jory from New York City and also Dave Catalfamo from here in Albany.
Thanks,
I hope to
Lou.
see you both again soon.
Thank you very much.